Hello and welcome to Console Shock, retro and modern gaming chat with me, Trev, and as usual, Stu. All right, Stu.
Hi, Trev. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Been on holiday, as have you recently.
Oh yeah. I went to a gay party.
Yes, happy parry. Is that what you're trying to say there?
Happy party. Yeah. It was I had a good time.
Probably a bit homosexual as well. Probably a little bit, but we're all for that.
There might have been.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And more, and all the better for it, I say.
Exactly. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah. How was it though? Fun?
Yeah.
You're not really giving it a good review right now.
Do you know what? I don't think people want to listen to my my romantic weekend with my girlfriend in Paris.
No, we don't want
I can talk about it.
The gory details.
You know, but we had a nice weekend in Paris. Ate lots of food.
Oh, lovely.
Saw all the sights.
You're playing your Switch throughout most of it.
I did play it on the train there and the train back.
You know what? I did take my Steam Deck and my Switch, and I was thinking, I'll probably end up playing it while I'm on holiday, but I actually didn't. It was only on the plane there and the plane back.
Yeah.
I just didn't really have. I just wanted to chill out and not really do anything, really, apart from holiday things. So yeah, I know you always get there's like Switch groups and Steam Deck groups on Facebook, and they're constantly bombarded with pictures of here's me on holiday in the Caribbean with my Steam Deck, while they're on the deck chair. But I find that one, you'll be able to see the screen for shit during the day, and two, just look at the beautiful view in front of you and stop playing bloody, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Trev. It's I always take my Switch away with me, and sometimes you might play it in the evening or sort of when you've got a little bit of downtime. But certainly the majority of the time is right. I want to go and see things. I want to lay on the beach. I want to swim in the pool. Or
it did make me realise though how problematic. Like I have two Switches. I've got like the regular Switch. The original Switch, actually, the very first version, and I've got a Lite. And I tend to play my Lite more these days. Because I could just like grab it and it's right there ready to go, and I don't have to sort of yank it out of the dock and everything. So it's become my primary one. But the trouble is, nearly all the games I have on it are just digital downloads. And so whipping that out on the aeroplane with like very janky kind of internet, there's no real kind of good offline mode. Whereas the Steam Deck was a lot better. As long as you log in at some point in the previous couple of days or something, you'll pretty much and also if there isn't like some weird like extra login you have to do with the EA Play app or Rockstar or something if you're trying to play one of those games that sit behind it.
I would have thought it was the opposite way around. I thought, because the only issue I've had is where I've not used the Switch for a while, and then I've gone on a flight, and then I've tried to play those SNES games or NES games.
Anything online,
they, if you haven't been online for a few weeks, then they don't let you. But all the other games have worked fine, and that's the only sort of issue I've had. But I would have thought that the Steam Deck would have been a complete nightmare to get going offline.
Well,
you have to sign up into everything, and then
it can be. It depends on what you're playing. Like I said, if something like Grand Theft Auto 5, because that needs you to log into the Rockstar game launcher, it might not let you play if you're completely offline. Steam might be happy, but there's another launcher behind there, which is one of the jankiness things of PC gaming. But anything that kind of just works straight through Steam, like I was playing Dead Space, that just works. So I was able to log in. Obviously, you won't be able to upload your cloud save until you get internet again. But yeah, it was actually a pretty good experience. And I had loads of emulators as well on RetroArch on the Steam Deck. So even if it was completely impossible to play anything through Steam, I could just go on that, and I've got thousands of games that don't need any kind of an internet connection or anything. So there was definitely something available for me to play at any point. But that actually brings, in terms of PC gaming, there's a few points you've wanted to cover today, and we're kind of not really focusing on one thing. We're kind of doing a bunch of things. But we did mention a few weeks ago that you've obviously got a Vista laptop that you've got running for sort of 2000.
Yeah,
gaming.
so I think
how's that going?
So we sort of dug it out of the the garage, and I was I even forgot we had this, and it's got an old ATI. Oh, I want to say
Mobility
Rage
Radeon or something.
Radeon, whatnot. So it has got a dedicated graphics chip of sorts. I can't really tell you which one it is, but the point is, I put a new hard drive in there. I installed Vista, which is the operating system that originally had on it, and then what I've actually done is I've put games on there. One from GOG because they're all DRM free. Put them onto a pen drive, and then installed them on this laptop. So I've got the first Diablo game, and then actually I've gone out and bought. I've actually a bit of not a spending spree, but I probably bought about 7 or 8 games from CX. And the local one to me in Bromley, they've had quite a good selection of PC games, and then they're always like £1 or £1.50 or maybe £2, and every one has actually worked no problem. They've had the code in, the CD key, and things like that. So I've bought the original Call of Duty, which I'm going through and I'm really enjoying, and it's quite interesting to see how that's changed over the years. Max Payne, Battlefield 2.
So these are the actual just like DVD releases that came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've sat there, installed them, as if it's 15 years ago, and then installed those. And it's actually, because it's got an SSD in there, it all loads up, really quite quickly, and then the games play well. And I'm sure I'll get to a little bit of a limit where I'll
there wasn't
try
any issue with like serial keys not being recognized or any of that sort of stuff.
So far, I've had no problems.
Yeah.
But I think I probably installed about sort of 5 or 6 of the games, and I bought a few off eBay. I think I've got Oblivion, and that was £2 off eBay, maybe £1 and £2 postage, and that didn't work. It was so scratched.
It was just it wasn't the key or anything. Yeah.
No.
So of those you can actually some of those serial keys you can actually redeem on Steam, and it will download a digital copy for you.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if you've got maybe a scratched, the best thing to do if you go on PC Gaming Wiki, you could look up the entry for whatever game you're trying to install. It might tell you on there if you can redeem the key, the serial key for the CD, and it'll actually download a digital copy for you because it thinks you bought a legitimate, a brand new copy, and you're just trying to get a digital copy of it. So you could give that a go. But it doesn't always, not very few games actually allow that. I do think Oblivion and the Elder Scroll and Skyrim allow that. But I think it probably won't really, I don't think you'll hit any major roadblocks until you get to games that are, I mentioned a few months ago about Grand Theft Auto 4, the physical copy of that on the PC's a ball ache, because it had some like a validation, an online validation check to check the date of the game release has passed. And that software's kind of got a bit janky and crap and doesn't really work well these days. So you might struggle there. But I think even that, you can redeem that key on like the Rockstar game launcher. So you could probably work around that. When you download that game now, it doesn't have any of that checking the date of the game thing has passed. It just works now. But yeah, very late 2000s, early 2010s, near the end of the era of disc games, basically, because there's none now on the PC. That's when you might get some of those weird online checks that might fail if the key's been redeemed.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, I'm buying them for a pound or so from CX, and if it doesn't work, it's then when you start looking at PC Game Wiki, you can potentially find CD keys or workarounds, and
Have you had to do any of that yet, or is everything?
I've not. Everything has worked except for Oblivion.
This is on Vista.
Yeah, on Vista.
Yeah.
So the only issue you've got, I can't really get a browser that works with Vista. So
right. You
literally. You've got to have my other computer set up and then the laptop, and I have to download things, put it onto a pen drive.
You have to sort of have a bridge computer,
Yeah, to sort of move everything across. And part of me thinking, well, actually, this will work so much better on my main computer, but it's actually using the old computer with the sort of limitations that has, and it kind of just feels right to sort of play it on there, really.
I think the last, yeah, that's right. It totally does. I mean, I think the last, I've got a Vista laptop that I got as a hand-me-down about a year ago. Someone just had it in there. It was my girlfriend's sister had it just lying around and wasn't using it anymore. She's like, "Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, right." It's such a big old thing. It's like an 18-inch screen. It's huge. But I thought this would be great for sticking some old Vista and late XP, games. The only game I've actually installed on it was Pro Evolution Soccer 2008. The PC version, but it runs fine. And that's a game I can't get to run for love nor money in Windows 10 and 11. There are workarounds, but they're an absolute ball ache to get going. But now I've kind of don't really need to do that, because on my Roggly app, actually, I've got PCSX or not RPCS3, the PlayStation 3 emulator. And the PlayStation 3 version of Pro Evolution Soccer 2008 runs perfect on my ROG Ally. So I can actually emulate the PS3 version now, which is easier to get going than getting, the actual native PC version of that game. So I just play that when I want to play a bit of, retro Pro Evo. But I mean, on the Vista laptop, I can pop my 360 controller into it. And that game picks that up, and I can play it on there when I want to play it. It doesn't run as well as... Actually, it's not a great experience, because it doesn't run as well as the PS3 version of that game on my handheld, my Asus handheld. It's perfectly smooth. In fact, it runs it better than the PS3 does. If I play that game on a real PS3, the replays are like a slideshow. And at the time, that was a thing that it got bad reviews for. People were like, the cutscenes look terrible because they're just... I think the PS3 version was badly optimized. I think the 360 version's a lot better. But with RPCS3, you can sort of it just kind of you can brute force more processing power. So those cutscenes are now super smooth for me. As if I was running on a top of the range. Running the original PC version on a top of the range PC at the time. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. Some of those late PC, some of those weird Vista era PC games, nowadays you might find you might have a better time running, a PlayStation 3 because the PS3 emulator is really good now. I've chucked a ton of games at it, and they've all worked with very little issues. Something like Dark Souls, there is a PC version of that. I mean, there was the remake that came out that you can play. But if you want to try the original Dark Souls on other PC, you've got to get the Prepare to Die edition, which isn't the optimal. It doesn't run great, even on modern PCs. But you could just emulate the original PS3 version, and you can boost the resolution on that, and it'll max out the frame rate on unlocked frame rate segments. And yeah, weirdly, if you've got just a huge craving to play a particular game, and you can't get it working on the PC from that era, you could give that a go. I mean, that would obviously be on your main gaming PC rig, but I think from what you tell me about the specs, you should be able to just absolutely annihilate PS3 games on that. Yeah,
exactly. So, I think that'd be sort of no problem at all, really.
I mean, a thing like Oblivion's a good example, actually, because you probably will be able to get it installed fine, but the PC version doesn't have really any good... I know people roll their eyes and just think, well, just use a mouse and a keyboard, but it hasn't got really any good controller support at all. So unless you're happy to deal with keyboard and mouse controls, you might find that a bit of a pain to work with. Actually, I've been playing the PC version on the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck sort of adapted controls are really good. But yeah, that might be an example where, sod it, I could just get like the PS3 version and just play that on my PC with a controller, and it's perfectly optimized for a controller. So yeah, you might find, some of those sort of issues might not be to your taste, or you might not want to really go through the rigmarole of trying to fix them, but you might find you want to. I guess you'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I think there's so much sort of, I'm still having sort of fun exploring sort of PC gaming, because it's something that I've really just not engaged with for sort of 10 years. And you know, what was I playing last week? The Outer Worlds, and I finished that, and now I'm sort of like looking for sort of something else to get involved with, and that sort of brought me back to the, you know, the old retro gaming on the PC. And,
where do you play
you know,
it? Do you sort of have it just on your lap in the living room type deal, or
no,
have you got your little setup for it? Or
yeah, I've got my setup. So I'm in where I am now. I'm in sort of the spare room, the office, the you know, where I do, you know, iron my clothes and stuff. And this is where my gaming computer is. So I sort of, you know, move the keyboard out the way, get the laptop out, set that up, and, you know, away I go. And everything sort of, you know, touch wood, everything seems to sort of work fine with it. And I think it runs a little bit hot, you know, you get the fans going.
yeah,
But I just think it's, I don't know, I'm sort of quite enjoying it, and I actually enjoy the process. It's funny, it's what Dan Wood said a few weeks ago when we had him on, and he was sort of talking about actually the fun part is, you know, getting your Amiga, getting your laptop, and actually getting it all set up and getting upgrades on it. And then once it's all done, you're like, oh, okay, right, I'll turn it off now and put it in the cupboard.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'll sort of move on to my next sort of project. And actually, I'll totally agree with that, because it was quite fun. So silly, but getting the drivers and making sure, getting rid of all the errors and stuff like that, and installing Windows Vista, and, you know, doing all these little bits and pieces for it. I actually sort of, it was good fun.
A lot of that stuff also just won't work on like a modern PC. They just don't play well with Windows 10 or 11. So that's the optimal way to play it, is on a device of the era. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's what you're sort of trying to, you know, you're looking for is, well, actually, this feels, because I played older games, and then I go, oh, I really remember that, and they play so fast
Yeah.
on modern PCs, and instead of them, they're designed to be at, I can't remember the numbers, but, you know,
30
10,
frames or
10
whatever, or
or
yeah.
1050 by
Oh yeah,
800
yeah.
or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you're playing them on a 1440p monitor, and actually there's almost too much detail there, isn't there? And you're kind of, oh, actually it's playing too fast, and it just doesn't quite feel actually how you remember it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, you need a turbo button or something on your PC to knock down the speed in reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I enjoy, like, yeah, like you say, just the actual sort of challenge of getting this stuff running. But I love trying loads of like silly sort of genres of games, like the PC versions of those that we don't really have anymore, like movie licenses. Like, I think I tried getting like a few years ago, getting like Terminator Salvation, the PC version of that. It was a 360 game and a PS3 game, but I thought, I wonder what the PC version's like, and it turned out it's basically identical. It's a ball ache to get running as well. I actually got it running on a modern computer, but it looks better. You know, you can run it at 1080p, whereas obviously the consoles were just sort of 720. The frame rate's a lot smoother, and you could just it recognizes a 360 controller, which are some of those, which is a little bit touch and go in those sort of late 2000s, early 2010s sort of console ports. And, you know, like Ghostbusters, the video game. Now there's a remake now of that you can play. But you know, stuff like that. A lot of those games don't need like any kind of an online connection or anything. Some of them don't even, you know, they didn't need Steam to download. You would just put the disc in, and it will just, like, you know, I got like Transformers War for Cybertron on the PC version, quite a few years ago, and that was well into the Steam like era, and it was available from Steam. But the disc, the PC DVD edition, there was no extra software. It was just the game, just installed on its own. And it's a bit weird because there's no like, there was no achievements or anything. There was no like, I mean, there was an online multiplayer element, but that needed like an extra bit of sort of slightly weird, janky sort of PC networking, you know, online multiplayer software to be added in, which was a common thing in those days. You kind of felt disconnected from, you know, from kind of the world in a way. Whereas like even on the sort of the 7th gen consoles, you still had like your Xbox Live was online, and so was your PSN network. Whereas you could get the PC version of some of those games, and it had none of that. It was still kind of trapped in that sort of early 2000s era. And in some ways, the consoles had kind of moved beyond the PC at that point, because they had that stuff built in. I mean, the PC did have like games for Windows Live at that time. So if you bought Gears of War, the PC version, you could actually, that would actually connect to Xbox Live on the PC. You'd actually have to make a gamer tag for yourself, which probably would have pissed off some PC gamers who were just used to slapping a disc in, putting the serial key in and bang it installed, you can play it. Actually, you had to download games for Windows Live, but it would have achievements and it worked with a 360 controller seamlessly. In fact, it might not have worked with a keyboard and a mouse. So that would have pissed off people that are used to gaming on PC. So yeah, it was just a funny era. It was kind of stuck between two kind of distinct points of gaming, really. Very like the 90s all the way up to sort of 2010, late 90s up to 2010, when you just bunged a disc in your drive, put the serial key in, it installed. There was no online service, really. Maybe there'll be an online multiplayer, but that wouldn't be part of like a central, Steam multiplayer or Xbox. It was just the servers of the company that made the game.
They switched them off, or someone run them themselves.
And that's even, and obviously that'd be common, the early 2000s, but even going into like 2008, 9, 10, maybe a bit beyond, some of those games are still fairly just isolated bits of software that didn't, and then it wasn't really until, I think when we got to, I remember I got Metal Gear Solid 5 for the PC, and it came on, I opened the case and it was one DVD. And I was like, yeah, this definitely isn't. It's definitely not the full game. And I put it in my PC, and it just downloaded Steam. I already had Steam, so it just went straight to Steam and started downloading the game. There was no data on the disc at all. It was just a key to unlock a download of the game. Even like GTA 5, which came out a few months earlier in 2015 for the PC, that came on 7 DVDs that actually had game data. You still had to download some. Another couple of gig at the end, but you could install 75% of the game, from and it actually came with a really nice box set, like a DVD box set, like you get of movies. And I remember I bought a couple of FIFAs, like I think 17 was the last one on PC that came on 3 DVDs, and I was like, my God, like a football game coming on 3 DVDs. Obviously, the games got big, in that sort of 8th gen like era, even a football game. And I think in some countries you still can get FIFA on DVD. If you look on eBay, you'll see FIFA. You might even see FIFA 23. Normally, Poland and places like that where they don't have good internet. So
that's what I was going to say. And I remember up until a few years ago when I go away to Malaysia, where my partner's from. And we'll go there, and you'll see shops, and they'll be selling lots of like copied PC games on DVDs and stuff. And it was always like, oh, okay, you're right. And now if I got a DVD of a game, I couldn't even install it onto my PC because I haven't got anywhere to put a DVD drive short of buying an external USB one. And I'm actually thinking of, I might get myself an external USB drive so I can try to, have a bit of fun installing some of these older games I'm playing on the laptop and actually install them onto the PC and just really sort of seeing what happens. And, quite often nothing will happen. But I mean, actually, there was a funny bit of news that the Modern Vintage Gamer was talking about, and I thought you might have picked it up earlier. Is one of the games I bought from CEX was Max Payne, and this was like a few days before that people had dived into the code of the Max Payne version that you buy on Steam, and it's actually what Rockstar have uploaded onto Steam, basically a hacked version, a cracked version of Max Payne, just because their actual version's got all this DRM and
they
it
don't
must
want to
look for the
untangle it.
disc
Yeah.
and and then they're going, I think we've just lost the ability, lost the knowledge of actually how to remove this. So they've gone on there and gone, okay, well, we'll just install this version, and for me, it's like, well, they own the game, and they might not own the bit of cracked code, but they own the game, which is, I don't really know the. I'm trying to sort of argue that actually what they did was completely fair, because it's their game, and someone's modified it, and it's been uploaded, and surely that's right. That's fine. What's your thoughts on that, Trev?
It's kind of funny, isn't it, that
Yeah.
they tangled up their game with so much DRM that they're not able to remove it, and so they've just taken the quicker route of just sod it. Let's just put a pirated version up.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are saying that's kind of wrong for them to do that, but I mean, it was probably legally it was wrong for the original person to crack it. So I guess if they're selling it again, it's perfectly within their it's perfectly fine for them to do that if that's what they want to do. There's nothing wrong with them selling a game, even if it's their. I mean, there's an argument that they're making money off someone else's like awesome work of cracking the DRM, but at the end of the day, that person was kind of illegally cracking a game, so it could be distributed, it can be pirated. So no one's really in a kind of there isn't a moral high ground for either side there, really, is there? So I'm just kind of like, I guess if it means if the game is available to buy versus it isn't, I think it's a good thing. I'd rather have a digital version available than us relying on janky discs that might not install or are too scratched or whatever, or even a pirated version. So
100%, yeah. So I'm sort of pleased that they hacked it, so it was actually workable, and it goes back to our age-old discussion that we always have, is about video game preservation. And you can find, let's say you want to watch a film from 30-40 years ago, and you just download that film, you find the DVD and pop it in, and you watch it. And then imagine trying to play a game from 2005 with DRM in 2080.
Yeah.
How on earth would you even consider that? What would you do to try and, hold on, I've got this DRM, the servers are off, this, and I have to, it's just difficult.
I don't think there'll be a solution, really. I mean, there might be better ways of I don't think none of those old games, a tiny proportion of every game that's ever come out will be available on an ongoing basis. There's just too many rights. Like I've mentioned them already, but like the Transformers games, that's obviously owned by Hasbro. The license to make a game has passed through numerous studios over the years, and that'll just get murkier and murkier as the decades go by.
And classic games like Outlook.
That's a great game. I love Outlook.
Yeah,
it's like an office simulator, isn't it?
It is. Just ruins your life. Outrun. You can't go and play a brand new version of Outrun.
Yeah,
even if I thought, okay, right, I've got a PC, I can't go and download a version of Outrun because Sega haven't got the rights to
Ferrari. Yeah, I mean, it's also Sega's another thing we could go on about, because John Linneman made a really good point on the DF Direct show on I think it was either this week's or last week's, about Sega just seem to don't go beyond 1995 when it comes to them releasing stuff. I mean, they have done a few bits like that go a little bit later than that. We had like the Dreamcast collection. There's been the odd Dreamcast game and like Crazy Taxi and things like that, and Jet Set Radio. But like, a lot of their arcade stuff, I mean, okay, you get, sometimes they'll embed like Virtua Fighter 3 and Yakuza, which is not the best way to distribute an old game like that. I mean, Daytona USA 2 is going to be available, isn't it, in the next Like a Dragon game, Yakuza game? But I would much rather they just made a separate download,
Exactly. And I thought the same thing. It was like, I'll happily play, $7.99 to get Daytona 2, and I can play it on the PC or my Xbox. Yeah, I'll buy that. Put it in that other game as well. But I don't, the Yakuza games are not really games that I personally like to play too much. I've tried them. It's not really my thing.
Well, they're basically the modern version of Shenmue, aren't they? And the funny thing is Shenmue you could go in the arcade, the original on the Dreamcast, and you could play Hang On and Space Harrier. And they were perfect. They were like perfect. And at Shenmue 2, you can go into an arcade and play Outrun and Afterburner. But you could get those games separately.
The issue is you've got to go into that game, go to whatever part of the game to play it. It's not an instant thing. You can't put that in and then go, oh, hold on, where have I got to go again to play this arcade machine? But
there's also the thing, like the games that were available in like Shenmue 1 and 2, you could get them. Like you could get the Sega Ages compilation on the Saturn. Which had like Outrun and Afterburner and Space Harrier. Okay, you're not getting like everything, but that was only a few years prior, so those games are a bit easier to get, and they've re-released, haven't they, the original Outrun and things like that before. On the Switch, they made a version of the original Outrun, but things like anything mid-90s and later arcade based, apart from a handful, they just don't seem to want to release it all.
I mean, there's so much good stuff out there, and again, like what was it, Panzer Dragoon Saga? I love to play that without the huge, great big price tag. That'd be something that I'd be sort of really into. And then there's so many games, like quality games from the Dreamcast, from the Sega Saturn, and then the later arcade games that sort of came out, and then also their early games on the Xbox, the PS2, the GameCube. There's just so many things that there are all these barriers to play them, and I don't know what the solution is to.
They're very strange. Yeah, they're very strange with their history. I mean, the one console that they completely neglect is the Sega Master System, which is their second most successful console. I mean, people say, but the Saturn's amazing and the Dreamcast is amazing. Yeah, but it didn't sell as much as the Master System. I know in America it got the narrative is but the NES beat it. Well, in America over in like.
I mean, Alex Kidd came out recently, didn't it? A remake of that, and I think some of the.
We've had the 8-bit
Master
Sonic games, I think.
Yeah, the 8-bit Sonic games. They came out on a collection, Sonic Origins Plus Super Collection or whatever it's called. That came out recently, and this is all really good stuff, and that's what I like to see. But where are the big collections that are coming out? And they have done them with
get the
Mega Drive, but
Mega Drive one, every few years,
exactly. And they've probably looked on, where are we going to make money? What do people want to play? They want to play Streets of Rage. They want to play Golden Axe. They want to play, they don't want to play Dynamite Ducks. And
realistically, the Mega Drive is the nostalgia kind of sweet spot for Sega.
But I think what they're really missing is the Sega Saturn, the Dreamcast. Remaking sort of the classic games that were on those systems, and what's it called? Like things like Sonic Adventure.
Well, you could really. I mean, there's certainly some scope for him to do a mini. I know. In our sort of circles of gaming, retro gaming forums and retro gaming Facebook groups, we all think, they should definitely do it. When in reality, the wider population won't give a crap about it. My experience of having a Dreamcast was people would play my Dreamcast and they're like, but I'm going to wait for the PS2. That was basically what killed it. We've talked about it. We've got a whole episode. But on the other hand, Konami released the PC Engine Mini in the UK, which is you would think is a really limited appeal system, but I think it was successful. I haven't bought one personally, but I don't think it's really easy to get now. I think it's kind of fallen off the radar completely. I don't think they made huge amounts of it. But I mean, if someone can release that, and I'd argue that probably has a more limited appeal than probably the Dreamcast. You could argue maybe not the Saturn. Although I probably would say the Saturn is a little bit more of a broader appeal than the PC Engine because it's Sega, you know. I mean, if that can be released and be worthwhile, but obviously, you know, the PC Engine Mini is a much easier prospect than a Saturn or a Dreamcast, which would need much more powerful hardware and, you know, and an emulator that's capable of running these games mostly flawlessly.
I think maybe that's the issue, because you might see in you might see things like Panzer Saga. You know, be careful what you wish for. You might just get a stretched out, pixelated mess with a very awkward control system. And actually, it sort of should be left where it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think about with they announced the Tomb Raider trilogy is coming out.
Actually, yeah, that's
a
prime example.
Is that the recent sort of the 2013 and onward series on the Switch? That's the perfect console to play those games. And I saw it's literally the original 90s Tomb Raider games with a little bit of a lick of paint, and I'm like, yeah, they're kind of cool, and they're very, you know, but I don't think that. I think they should just ported the, you know, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider, the 2013, you know, series. Who is it? Square Enix games. I think they should. I mean, even Tomb Raider 1, the original, you could even have done Tomb Raider Anniversary, which is a pretty good game.
Yeah.
You know, came out on the Xbox 360.
Because you see that's my. You can play it like all these games. You can play it in the original mode, and you can play it in you know, high res with better textures, and I think people without their rose tinted glasses will actually be like, they're
gonna hate that shit.
This is awful.
They're very difficult. It's a very difficult era. Outside of like a racing games and light gun games, which don't really control any differently to modern ones, really. Platformers and, like, you know, fighting games are still pretty universally appealing, but things that are the pioneers of a particular genre, like a 3D platformer, they're very difficult to go, or an FPS that are with janky controls, they're very difficult to go back to. Not necessarily just because the graphics are bad, but just because, I mean, Tomb Raider, like, Lara Croft controls like a tank. You know, we also got used to it when we were kids.
Yeah,
that was the only way we knew.
You got used to it because it was groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah.
And you know, on one hand, I'm saying I want a way to play all of these old games, and on the other hand, I'm finding myself, well, actually, oh god, it's going to be a bit awful, isn't it? Because you know, I remember going back and playing the original Tomb Raider, and it's just trying to see what you meant to do. You know, the quite high precision jumping and platforming that you
picking up a med
to
pack. You've got to be right over the top of it for Lara to actually acknowledge that you're going to pick it up.
So hopefully they give it a lot of, you know, quality of life improvements, so we can actually, you know, really it hopefully get the essence of the game, but enjoy it.
I mean, if you want to play Tomb Raider 1 and you want something that's kind of close to the original and not the 2013 well, it's not even a remake, it's just a reboot, wasn't it? It's a completely different game. Play Tomb Raider Anniversary. It still works. I mean, if you've got a Steam Deck, it works. I play it on my Steam Deck. It was on the 360, it was on the PS3. It's a decent game. It's kind of a middle ground. It's literally the same missions as the original Tomb Raider. Lara Croft looks the same, apart from she's got, like, you know, modern. Well, I say modern. It's 2007. That game came out now, but it doesn't. It's aged well. It looks good.
Got more pixels.
It's She looks like she hasn't got pointy polygon tits. If you know, that's what we're sort of talking about. But you can play that, and it's still got that, like, it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you like press button and it will give you a giant halo showing you where to go, which some people will hate and they love being able to just work it out. You've kind of got an element of figuring out for yourself in that game. The controls are modern, so she's a lot better to control. Still not as good as the Squeenix games, but it's still better than the original. And but also should have put that. In fact, there was the I think when Tomb Raider Anniversary came out on the PS3, it was part of that Classics HD collection where you got the 3 sort of edgy Tomb Raider games like Underworld and like what was the other one, Angel of Darkness or something. I'm not sure if that was the same one, but they could just release that. Okay, it's not.
But I think this is more like a bit of a cash thing. People buy it because they remember it very fondly. But I don't think the reviews for it will be kind. Just because
it's not like Red Dead Redemption.
It wasn't a good game in the first place, and I know that's controversial to say, but
it wasn't. That's in the air. It
wasn't. It was just the first sort of 3D, adventure. And
it wasn't my cup of tea. I was into action games. Yeah,
exactly, and
I think the first one I played to any degree. I remember playing Tomb Raider, the demo of Tomb Raider 1 that came on an issue of official PlayStation magazine. And I thought it was okay. It wasn't the beginning of the game. It was a little bit of a ways in when you fought the bear. I thought it was okay. It didn't make me want to run out and buy it. This would have been about 97 time, so it was a little bit after it came out. That's when I first played it. The first one that I played at length was The Last Revelation, I think, the 4th game. And that was on the Dreamcast. Which is basically an upscaled PS1 port, so it ran a bit 60 frames a second instead of 30, but the controls are still kind of crap. But even then, I wasn't like, this is amazing. I want to complete this game. I still didn't feel like that.
It's the same as going back and playing the original. What's it called? Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Now the thing with that one, everyone's got great memories of Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2. But I want to play the remake for a reason, because it's got all the quality of life, add-ins. It just feels better, and there's clearly a lot more going on, and for me that's what I'm really sort of looking for.
You haven't really got to look to like modern versions of games either. I mean, just a contemporary of Tomb Raider, Super Mario 64. God, he controlled like a dream. Compared to Lara Croft. No, again, now you'll play it. It's a bit jankier and all that.
But
stuff.
you see, that's the Nintendo magic, because they made that game. Actually, everything was big, blocky, clear colors, and you knew exactly where you were going, what was going on. But
the analog stick just made Mario control perfectly.
Exactly. It had an analog stick, and the Tomb Raider games didn't have that. And also, the Tomb Raider games, from what I remember, it was just like, hold on, where am I meant to go? Or is that a graphical glitch in the corner, or is that a hole I've got to jump through? Yeah. Or hold on, how do I do swimming? And actually, it wasn't. I keep on saying it wasn't a great experience. I'll stand by that. Compared to something like, people remember Mario 64 extremely fondly, and rightly so. And obviously, Nintendo have improved that.
And I think it still
leaps and bounds over
day.
Yeah.
Whereas Tomb Raider, you can't really say the same. I don't think it's aged far worse than Mario 64 has.
Oh my God, yeah, 100%. But another thing that stood out, and actually we've both played, that came out of that Nintendo Direct was F-Zero 99, and it's funny when I watched that video. It was like, oh my God, I really want that. I never knew I wanted it, but this is a game I really, really want to play.
Tell you the truth, I've never been a fan of the Super Nintendo F-Zero. I could see why I've played it, in the years. I never played it at the time when it came out. I didn't really know anybody that had a Super Nintendo until the SNES had been out for a year. And by that time, it was basically Street Fighter 2 in the UK. That's what everybody was playing on it. Also, the Mario World, I would say. So that was the game that I really thought really sold me on the Super Nintendo. But eventually we got it on the Mega Drive anyway, and that was the one that I played. But F-Zero I didn't really ever play. So my first experience of a futuristic floaty racing game is Wipeout, which I still love to this day. And obviously they've continued to make sequels to that over the years, whereas F-Zero has been... But I do remember the one that I've really enjoyed when I've played it is F-Zero GX, on the last one
on the GameCube.
Yeah. So I was kind of wishing it was, if they would do something with that style more than... I'm not sure how feasible it would be to have 100, 3D polygon F-Zero, hover cars versus just a sprite-based one. Obviously, that would be a lot more difficult. And I could see why they probably would have gone with the sprite, SNES aesthetic. But I would have loved it to have... So actually, you know what? I could have done without a 99 version. I could have just had a port of F-Zero GX with a few extra tracks. And I would take that over an F-Zero 99.
I mean, my experience with F-Zero is I'm like you. I think I must have played it once or twice on the Super Nintendo. But actually, when the Game Boy Advance came out, of the release titles, for some reason, I bought F-Zero. I want to say Maximum Impact or Maximum something.
Maximum Velocity.
Maximum, something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think it was Velocity.
F-Zero, Maximum F-Zero. That's probably what it was called.
I think that's right. Actually, I'll stand by that.
Yeah,
and then I actually, because that was the only game I had, I'd actually play that a lot, and I actually got quite good at it. Well, I think I did. But I played it sort of loads, and I remember someone else had one at university, and we used to link up and play against each other, and that was really good fun. So coming back to playing this 99 sort of version of it, I don't think I'll ever really win any of the races on there because I haven't got the time to put it all in, and and not particularly, I like playing games, but not particularly good at them. But it is a good experience of playing it with all these other people as well. And I was a little bit worried that it would become a little bit of a mess of you just bouncing off people all the time.
It is that to a degree, yeah.
But you sort of like, you don't have that bouncing off. You might hit the sides and things, but you're not really sort of bouncing up, because that would just be a nightmare.
Yeah, I would say. I've basically just I can't really talk too much about it because I've only had one race. There's kind of a slightly elongated tutorial you have to deal with. But I can appreciate there's a lot of kids out there with a Switch that would never have played F-Zero, and there hasn't been a game recently in that series. So a lot of people will be sort of playing from scratch really. So you have to deal with that. But then you've got then you actually get into a race, and I actually came third in my first attempt in a 99 full race.
Oh wow!
But it wasn't completely filled with actual real people though. I felt like it was about half real people and half CPU components opponents. I don't know if that's the case when you play more races, or I just called it. I
think you might still be going through the intro
the initial. I could.
Yeah, so I think you have to do 4 or 5. Races where it gets more and more each time, and then you're released into like the real world. But I think it's an absolute cracking experience, and I
enjoyed it. The race I did do, I enjoyed. To be honest, obviously it comes free with the online service, so you're not paying for it. That's pretty good, right? I wish they kept the other battle royales. I think Pac-Man 99 is that. I think that's gone now, isn't it? As well, I think they've taken.
Well, that's it. They do them for about sort of 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah,
and then they're taken off again. And
Super Mario 35, that was my favorite. That was awesome. I played that constantly. I think I never actually won a round. The closest I got was second. But yeah, that was great. If only they kept that going. Super Mario. So 35,
how did that work? That was was that sort of a platformer?
Yeah, it was just basically Super Mario Brothers. But you're in a battle royale against 35 other people, and when you sort of knock off Goombas and Koopas, they sort of end up landing on someone else's screen, so they've got more enemies to deal with and stuff like that. until people start dying and falling, and then eventually there'll be two of you, and then it's just a case of who can survive the longest as you go through the levels. And eventually, I think it didn't. You can't really complete a game of Mario if you had two people that went all the way up to the end of the game. It'll eventually get to like a countdown to destruction point, and I think whoever has the most coins or something will win by default as like a tiebreaker. So you can't have a game go on longer than a few minutes. But yeah, it was really good fun. It wasn't 99; it was 35 people. It was because it was the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. I think with 99, it might have been a bit too much. But I did ask on Twitter earlier on today. I said, I'm really excited about F-Zero 99. What other games should get the 99 treatment? And then I put my opinion on there saying, I think they should do a Mario Kart 64 Battle Edition 99. So basically playing those old maps on Mario Kart 64, but in a sort of a battle royale type version where 99 people go. I think that'll be pretty good. But
that might fall into the trap of being a bit too chaotic, but it does seem like it's the kind of genre of game that would lend itself to that a little bit, though. I think,
I think you're absolutely right. And then actually, Control Alt Richie on Twitter has replied with Pilot Wings 99. That could be quite chaotic in a beautifully stupid way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how would you sort of knock other people out of contention. I guess you'd have to sort of.
All I remember is with Pilot Wings, you have to sort of landing
on a bullseye. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe everyone takes off at the same time, or you're all in a big circle. You all take off, and then you've got to land sort of in the middle, and the one that's lands closest to the center in the quickest time is the winner.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably make it work. I mean, in my eyes, like something like Vampire Survivors would be good in like a battle royale, because obviously you're fighting hordes of people, but maybe when you kill a bunch of bad guys, they all jump over to another person's screen, so you'd be able to see how people could get overwhelmed. So that would work. And maybe a scrolling beat 'em up like Streets of Rage or Final Fight.
Yes, something like that. I would imagine one of those with sort of 10 to, no. I mean, I think 99 people on the screen might be a little bit sort of too much going on.
It probably would, but
I imagine, 10 people playing a big high-res version of Streets of Rage or something would be a great experience.
Yeah, and then like you could even do like something like, a God of War type thing where you're kind of obviously very similar to a scrolling beat 'em up, but fighting hordes of people, and then you fling some of those hordes over to another screen when you're defeating them. Puzzle games, obviously, we know work really well with Tetris 99. I think is still live, so I think you can still play that one. There's the retro genres, especially I think lend themselves fairly well to it. Here's hoping that it seems to be a thing where they keep coming up with these 99s battle royales. I mean, I've no interest in like playing, Call of Duty Warzone or Fortnite or those other sort of battle royale games. Player Unknown's, Battlegrounds, which I don't think anybody plays that anymore. People going nuts for that, weren't they, a few years ago? But I've got no desire to play those. But you know what? I would play a battle royale of like maybe like a boomer shooter, like Doom or something. I know it's fairly similar to doing like a Call of Duty Warzone, but literally as 90s Doom. People call them boomer shooters now, don't they? But
that's what Metal Jesus Rocks invented that term.
Boomer shooters, which implies that it's people in their 60s and 70s are the ones that play those games.
Baby boomers. There's only game really for baby boomers.
Basically, our parents' generation, which I really doubt would have been interested in playing those.
And then
games.
Go out and shoot people.
Yeah, it's like Gen X, if anything, with the people that sort of program those games, really. And sort of, obviously Gen Xers and millennials like us were the ones that grew up playing them. But probably a boomer shooter would be really good, like an old school Quake 1 or Quake 2 or original Doom. I mean, no, you've got Unreal kind of already does that. I'm sure there's people that have got servers that can have a bagrillion people running around. Maybe there is with Doom as well. I just haven't investigated it. But yeah, an official version of that on the Switch would be pretty good. I mean, you've already got Quake and original Doom, original Quake on the Switch. Bethesda have re-released those games, so yeah, I think that'd be a good shout as well. I mean, we're running out of time, but we can touch a little bit on the Switch too with the last sort of few minutes that we've got. There's been more news. We've speculated amongst ourselves as to what it probably should be. I mean, we've sort of said minimum it needs to be sort of power-wise Steam Deck level, and I think really beyond that now.
I think they're talking about, some of the rumors have been, and this really pleased me, like similar performance to the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, that was actually a surprise. Yeah,
and I was like, wow, it's going to be that much performance. And for me, everyone was talking about, what do you think they're going to do? And in my opinion, they should do exactly what they've already done, but just a more powerful GPU, a more powerful CPU, more RAM, and just keep on pumping out the great games.
Yeah, I don't think they need a gimmick. I don't think now's the time for that. Just another super Switch, basically, that'll allow sort of Xbox Series S level of gaming on the go. Exactly. Pretty good going if they could manage that, considering the current generation is only 2-3 years old. To be able to squish that down into a handheld this early on, because really the Switch was kind of in between the 360 and kind of a PS4. And we're a couple of years into the PS4 generation, but that was fine for the time. You could still squish down, ports of games for those consoles like Doom 2016 and The Witcher 3 is obviously the ones that everybody cites. And they were pretty, close to what you'd play on the PS4. If you could do that with the Super Switch, that is perfect in my eyes.
100%. It's got a huge sort of place there where people want to play these games on the go, and then you can see the other day, what was it, Mortal Kombat 1 came out, and I saw about the first 2 minutes of Review Tech USA's take on that, and I was like, well, of course it's going to be worse graphics. It's on the Switch.
I think that was another level, though. I mean, it looked worse than Mortal Kombat 9 on the Xbox 360.
It did. And I had one opinion of going, well, it's going to be worse graphics, but it still plays all right. And then I watched someone else's take on it, and it was like the loading times is like a minute between bouts. The performance, there's all this slowdown. The graphics, and I just thought it was initially just the graphics was the problem.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people were saying, like, why did they release it anyway? That's stupid putting it on a handheld. But it's like, well, there's a tradition of putting Mortal Kombat games on handhelds. You've got Mortal Kombat Deception on the PSP was really good. Mortal Kombat 9 on the Vita was really good. Mortal Kombat 11 on Switch was pretty good. I used to play Mortal Kombat on the original Game Boy. It was really janky, but it was fine to me. Yeah.
But they should, what they should have done is, made sure the performance is right. And then I think people can overlook it hasn't got as many textures. It is what it is, but it's on a 7-year-old machine which never really had a particularly fast processor in the first place.
Well, it's from 2015, effectively.
Yeah, well, exactly. Eight years old then. And then you look at it from that point of view and comparing it with something like an Xbox Series X or a PS5. And this game didn't even come out on the PS4, didn't even come out on the Xbox One.
No.
It's just, it's almost 2 generations higher than what the actual Switch is.
It's a heavy game. The PC version, you can't get 60 frames a second on the Steam Deck.
No?
There's like a website that I look at to see, to get games running on the Steam Deck, and they've already sort of tried to get Mortal Kombat 1, running in an optimal way on the Steam Deck, and they can't get it running at 60. You can get it running at 30, and it looks good. But obviously, you can't play competitively at 30 frames a second. You just have to really stick to one player mode. And even the Roggally, you can sort of get between sort of 50 and 60 and kind of, a bit of a slightly bouncy frame rate. There might be like patches and that's even with using FSR and DLSS and things like that to sort of lower the resolution internally and then scale it up. So it's a heavy game. So they probably really had to strip it back to get it going at 60 frames on the Switch. And obviously, maybe it was a bit too much of a strip back.
I think so, and I hope they improve it. But it just goes to show that actually a Switch 2, Switch Pro, new Switch, whatever you want to call it,
it's needed, isn't it? Big time.
It really is needed because there's only so far that you can rely on Nintendo to bring out the system sellers, and there'll be a point where actually it really is starting to show its age, and then people are looking for an upgrade now. And then also you've got all of these, the Roggally, the Steam Deck, the other one, and this one and that one, all the copycats are coming out and going. People are actually like, oh, okay, well, I might want to do that. I can play on, that's another route. So they really need to sort of knock that out of the park by going, here's the Switch 2. It's £299. It's got almost like a current gen processor. You can play all of the latest games at 1080p. It's a great experience. That's what people, in my opinion, that's what they want.
Yeah, and I mean, another big worry that some people have about it is it going to be backwards compatible? I think it is essential that it needs to be. There's a big question mark over, especially digital versions of games. Because we know publishers now would rather sell you a remake of a game than allow you to run the original. But if it was just straight up backwards compatible like every other Nintendo handheld has been, I know it's a hybrid console, probably it'll have to go down the route of including some of the original Switch hardware, because I think there's some issues with NVIDIA's mobile chipsets not actually running, working with older, not being backwards compatible. So they'd have to sort of include a system on a chip of the Switch inside the Switch 2. But they've done that before. Like the DS had part of the Game Boy Advance inside it, and the 3DS had bits of DS in it. So that's nothing new. So, yeah, they might need to go down that route, but I hope they won't restrict it in any way. More cartridges will work, but digital versions won't, or certain digital games will be backwards compatible and others won't. We have to get them reapproved by the publisher to allow them to have it backwards compatible like Xbox did, but then the PS5 can play all the PS4 games, and so can the series can play all the Xbone games. So if it's just, really, they really need to make it as straightforward as possible.
I mean, the point is, who makes it? NVIDIA, don't they? They make. But the point is, they can. Nintendo have got such big clout in the industry, and if you think you're going to sell 100 million of these, system on a chip, and Nintendo's got to go to them and go, okay, we want a next generation chip that also has backwards compatibility in it. You've got 18 months to get this put together. Now, I might have simplifying it there, Trev. Of course I am. But in reality, we're going to sell 100 million of these chips. So that's probably billions of pounds of sales that NVIDIA are going to get in chips that they're going to sell to be part of this Nintendo, Switch 2. So that's, I mean, it's a great sort of driver there to go, right, okay, well, we can, we'll condense the size of the old chip and get that as one of the cores on the new chip, and then put loads of extra power onto this, and I just think it'll be really good to see a Nintendo console, from to have one success to go to another successful machine.
In terms of like the backwards compatible thing as well, I mean, the Switch is one of the biggest selling consoles of all time now. It's beaten the PS4, clearly beaten the Xbox. It's beaten most of the other Nintendo consoles aside from the DS. So I think it's a necessity for it to work. I mean, the parents have bought kids. It's not strictly a kids console, but they've bought kids thousands of pounds of games potentially. They'll be pretty pissed off if they can't use them on the new console.
Exactly, and they've got the innovation there. People absolutely love the fact they can play it on the TV. They can play it when they're on the bus. They can take it around the world, playing it on a flight. The controllers. Okay, let's work on the controllers. Let's make them more reliable and things like that. But I just think that's the route they want to go down. Is you've got a winning material there. You've got don't change it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a milestone of a console. I mean, it was the first. Obviously it's a hybrid, but it's the first, handheld console where the games were basically the same as what you would play on a dedicated console. Okay, there was elements of that with prior generations of handhelds, like the Vita got a really good Uncharted game and Mortal Kombat 9 and Borderlands 2 and things like that. But there were very, very cut back versions of those games. And before that, the PSP got ports of PS2 games, but largely its games were unique. And before that, you didn't really get anything, that was when you go back to the Game Boy Advance, that was alongside the PS2 and like the Xbox, and it wasn't getting, obviously there's no way that could handle games of that caliber. So this was the first time we had something that it could the games were the same. Developers didn't have to make a baby version of a game. They just ported it. And it's created this huge wave now. There wouldn't be a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally if it wasn't for the Switch. And it's the best Nintendo console in my opinion ever. It was my favorite console of the last gen. Still is one of my favorite consoles. I prefer to play handheld these days anyway, but I love the fact you can plug it into a TV easily. That's now kind of a given with all of these newer, hybrid handhelds that have come out since, like the Deck. If they make just basically a Super Switch, I'll pre-order it day one.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I will, just because it's I've had I played the Switch a huge amount, and I think it's a great machine, and I'm looking forward to the next one, and I just don't want Nintendo to mess it up like they did with the Wii U, potentially like they did with the GameCube. Let's what works. Let's just keep on doing that.
They haven't got a great track record of following up a success with another success, but maybe the Super Nintendo is probably the good example of that.
Super Nintendo.
That's probably you could argue it's the only example. Okay, the N64 was kind of okay. Then the GameCube was, not a great success. The Wii was massive. The Wii U wasn't. The Switch was the biggest ever, apart from the DS. And so, hopefully they'll learn their lesson. But that's enough about the Switch 2. We'll see what happens. But Stu, where can you find us on the interwebs?
Oh, we're everywhere. So we're all over all of the podcast clients. I think Stitcher's stops now. I think Stitcher's gone. I always say we're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts, so any sort of podcast client. So if you just search Console Shock, you can find us. We're also all over the Twitter, or the X, as it's called now.
Yes.
So we're on there, we're on Facebook. And
you're right about Stitcher, it's being shut down.
Yeah. So we were on Stitcher, but it's shut down, or maybe it's turned into something else. Not quite sure, but it seems like Spotify and Apple Podcasts are the way that people listen to podcasts these days. And the YouTube, we're on the YouTube as well. So please like, share, and subscribe. I hear people say that.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to us again. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.